Hey guys. So this is the first video I'm doing on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna preemptively answer the question that everybody always asks, which is, what camera do you use? What did you take this with? Even though that question has little to do with the actual outcome of the photo, I know everybody wants to know, and as much as I do enjoy taking pictures, I also have an interest in the cameras themselves. So today I'm gonna talk about what I use and a little bit about why I use them. I'm not gonna show sample pictures for everything because a lot of them it really comes down more to the lens you're using, and that's not what this video is about. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the rangefinder cameras that I have. This is my Kiev 4am. It's a 35mm rangefinder. Most of my cameras are 35mm. It's a little dusty. Not anymore. It's a Kiev 4am. It's made in the former Soviet Union. It was made in Ukraine at the Kiev Arsenal factory, which made a lot of cameras in Soviet times. Of course, it's based on the German Contax pre-war cameras, so it's a very solid rangefinder. They made them pretty much unchanged up until, I would say, the early 80s. This is the last model. It's not super reliable, it's super leaky, like I get a lot of light leaks with this camera, but it can use all the same Contax lenses, and there's a whole line of Russian lenses. Here's what the shutter sounds like. It's nice, right? This is a Canonet QL17 G3, which is a really long name. It's a fixed lens rangefinder, so it's got a leaf shutter built into the lens, and it's really nice. This belonged to somebody in my family, but I can't remember who. These are really nice cameras. A lot of people really like them. They're advertised a lot as like a cheap alternative to a Leica, which I don't know if I would really go that far, but these are really nice. They're really compact and really quiet. Mine doesn't have a working meter, so it doesn't have the auto functionality, but they do shoot in shutter priority, so they're great if you're learning. This is a Leica 3C. This is made in Germany by Leica. Mine needs a little bit of work. The leatherette's kind of coming off. I don't really use this camera. They're really annoying to use, but I keep it mostly for historical value because it's a early 35mm camera. Leica kind of invented 35mm photography with the Leica series that they came out with. Well, Lights invented them and then they changed their name to Leica, whatever. I could do a whole video on Leica and their history, but I think a lot of other people have already spoken that better than me. So I do have this. I have a Leica lens for it, but it's really scratched up, so I don't use that. This is a Russian lens meant for a Zorky rangefinder. Alright, now we get expensive. This is my Leica M4P with the Casino Voigtlander 35mm f2.5 lens. This is my favorite film camera. I love how small it is. It's very compact, fully manual. There's no automation, so I have a light meter on top. But I really like the size. It sounds great. I had an M3 at first. The M3 didn't work that well for me because I have glasses, obviously, and I also shoot a 35mm lens a lot, and it doesn't have the lines for it. So this is just really nice. It's made in Canada instead of Germany like most Leicas, but I really like this camera. Alright, this one's digital, but it's my first digital Leica that I bought. Well, no, the first one I bought was an M8, but it broke. This is my M9. When I first got into photography, like years and years ago, the M9 was new, and so this was like the camera to have. It was what everyone talked about. Everybody wanted one. If you were like in the know about them, you either thought they were outrageously overpriced or you wanted one, and I wanted one. So now I have one, so I'm keeping it kind of just for that reason, even though I have since upgraded and moved on. And I upgraded and moved on to the Leica M Type 240 with my favorite lens ever, the Zeiss Planar 50mm f2. I absolutely love this lens, although I'm not as sure on the camera. I really like a lot of the features it has. I don't really have a mirrorless camera or like something like that like a lot of people do. I never got into it. So this is like the closest I have to a mirrorless. I guess it is a mirrorless, but it's a rangefinder, so it's different. But yeah, this is my main camera that I use most of the time if I'm going out to shoot pictures and I'm gonna shoot digitally. This is what I use. Next, I want to talk about SLR cameras. I started out with SLR cameras, that's single lens reflex, so you look through the lens. I had a Nikon that my dad gave me. It was my first camera ever, but unfortunately it broke. I've had a lot of SLRs in between, and although I think SLRs are probably the better choice for me, I get better results, I don't enjoy shooting with them so much because of how noisy and bulky they can be. Speaking of cameras that are noisy and bulky, my current film SLR is the Leica R8. This camera is a beast. It's so big and so heavy, but I really like the R-mount lenses, and as far as Leica lenses go, they're extremely affordable, so I'm a big fan of that. It's the only system I actually have any Leica brand lenses for. And I actually haven't used this camera that much. I haven't developed a roll yet from it, but I really like how it feels. It's very comfortable, and I would show you the shutter sound, but it has a lens. It has a lens? It has film in it right now, so I won't be doing that. I also use a digital SLR, but because I only shoot full frame, I don't like smaller crop sensors on interchangeable lens cameras. My choices were pretty limited, and most of them I couldn't afford since I already spent all my money on the Leica. So I went out and bought an older Canon 5D Mark II, which I don't really have any regrets about. It's just a basic looking digital camera, but I really like the amount of lenses that are out there for EF. I don't really like electronic viewfinders, so I didn't get on with a mirrorless system. I really like getting to see through the lens, even though it's a little outdated nowadays. But I do have this, and I have a few lenses, and I really like this thing. It's definitely old, but the pictures still look great. Alright, now I want to talk about point and shoot cameras. I have a weird relationship with point and shoot cameras. I feel like there's a lot that I would like to try, but they've gotten so expensive, and I don't really trust autofocus that much, so I'm not sure how much I would want to spend on a film point and shoot and then not know if any of my pictures actually turned out because I couldn't tell if they were sharp. But I do have a few, and one of them that I have is this one. It's the zone focus camera, so it's manual focus. This is the Lomo LCA, which you might be familiar with because it started the whole lomography thing, which I know I got my start in analog photography from that whole scene, but I mean, whatever you think about them, it's not what this video is about. I really like this camera. It's not a technically perfect camera. The lens has a lot of imperfections, but I've taken some of my favorite photos ever with this camera. So it holds a special place in my heart and I will never ever get rid of it. I'm probably gonna get a second one as a backup. I could do a whole video on just this camera and its history if I wanted to, and I might do that. Because of that one, I've also tried out the Lomo LCA Plus. That's the new one that they still make today, but I didn't like the quality of it that much. Despite that, I did still go out and find a good deal on a used Lomo LC Wide, which I really like this thing. I haven't used it too much just because I've, got other cameras, but it's a compact camera with a 17mm lens, which is just crazy to have a 17 this wide. I mean, this is a 17-40 lens, and this is huge, but this is full frame too because it's film, and it's got a 17mm lens, so to have such a wide lens so small, this just feels special to me. I know I said I don't shoot anything smaller than full frame, but that's kind of a lie. I do when it comes to film, just not digital. Case in point, Konica recorder. This is a half frame point and shoot from the 80s made by Konica. Half frame, so you get twice as many shots on each roll, but the negatives are smaller, so the quality is not as good. The film actually goes vertically, unlike most half-frame cameras, so the pictures are still landscape orientation and not portrait. So I really like that. This is just a fun snapshot camera, even though I don't really like autofocus too much. I don't like not being able to see the focus through the lens in any way. But with this, the negatives are so small, and it's just such a fun camera to throw in a bag and forget about and hand to people, and the rolls of film last forever. So I don't mind it too much in this one. It doesn't feel like I'm wasting film when there's twice as much of it. And now I have something a little weird. I have two of them, but this is the Canon ELPH Z3. It's an APS film camera from the early 2000s. The body is all metal and it's super compact. APS film is a little smaller than 35mm, but with a camera like this, the quality still comes out pretty good. It's got a zoom lens, it's really compact. I love this thing, and when I run out of APS film, I'm going to be really sad that I don't get to use this camera anymore because it's so much smaller than any 35mm point and shoot. The reason I have two, by the way, wasn't on purpose. I found one at a thrift store, and then I found another one the next day at the same thrift store, so sure, why not? This one that lives behind me is kind of strange. It's an Apple camera, right? Like made by the computer people and the iPhone people, but it's from the 90s. It's Apple QuickTake 200. It was actually made by Fuji. It's a really early digital camera. It uses these memory cards, and I don't have any way to get the pictures off of it because I don't know what this is. But I like it. It's important for like historical sake, I guess. It was one of the earliest cheaper digital cameras, which is crazy coming from Apple today. I wouldn't consider anything they're doing cheaper, but this one sure was. The last category of camera that I want to talk about are instant cameras. I have just two. This one is my Polaroid SX70. It's a folding SLR. Isn't that cool? So it gets really compact. I don't use this as much as I'd like because the film is really expensive, but there are a lot of videos out there on this camera. I really love it. I bought mine before they started to get real expensive, so now, I mean, they're kind of hard to get, although mine's a little dinged up. It's got a crack in the plastic there, but it doesn't bother me. I love this thing. So small. This is the main instant camera that I actually use. This is the Leica Zofort. No, this camera makes no sense. I don't know why I have it. It's uncomfortable to hold. The pictures are the same as any other Instax camera because this is literally just a Fuji camera with a different body. I bought it because I found one cheap on eBay with a ton of film, and when I factored in the price of the film that was included, it was like 10 packs of film. It cost the same as buying the Fuji brand version with all of that film together. So I decided, you know what, sure, I'll pay for the red dot in this case. And I did. I actually do have a lot more cameras than the ones I showed you in this video, but I decided to share only the ones I'm keeping. I have a lot that I'm selling and a lot that I've picked up that I never even used, and some that people just gave me because people find out, oh hey, you're into cameras, here, take this one I found in my attic. And it's some dusty thing that's broken that doesn't even like have any value. So I have a lot that I'm getting rid of and a lot that I'm selling, but these are my favorite ones and what I'm keeping.